ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, we are going to be reviving yet another age-old series from my channel. And that series is the Godlike 2 Not Quite, which is essentially just the BAMTube version of a tier video. I believe we've only ever done one of these videos, and it was way back with the Fast and Furious franchise after Hobbs & Shaw came out. But I've decided to revive it now because I feel that this sort of tier video style works a bit better for certain subjects than a ranking does, which I normally do. And if you clicked on the video, then you know that this subject covers every one of the major MCU heroes. And there's just no possible way that I could give a definitive answer as to which is my least favorite and which is my favorite of these heroes. I literally can't. So a tier video felt like the way to go. And the reason that we will be covering this topic in this video is because as of this recording, Eternals has finally released this very weekend, giving us 10 new heroes to add to the list. Although I will now have a playlist for the Godlike to Not Quites. It won't have a ton of content as of right now, but this is definitely a style of video that I will be revisiting frequently. And so with all that being said, let's start tiering it up. And before we start going through these tiers, I wanted to make a brief note that I am going to be tiering these characters based off a number of criteria, not necessarily one specific thing. It'll be a mix of how much I like the character, like how relatable I find they are, and it'll also be a mix of their powers, how useful I think they are when it comes to their powers, how powerful they are, how strong they are, if they're really like a team player. Just so many things are going into it. It's, you know, do I like the actor slash actress? Do I think they play the character well? Do I like their abilities, their powers? So there's a number of different criteria. It's not like one set thing, like, you know, this isn't a tier list on how powerful these characters are, or it isn't a tier list specifically just on, you know, do I like this actor or actress, or do I find them attractive, or anything like that. So it's sort of a mix of everything. It's a mix of them as heroes, it's a mix of them as characters, and it's a mix of the actors and actresses portraying them. Alright, so these are my tiers, or at least the BAMTube version of just, you know, a regular old tier video. As always, you have your S tier, which is like your God tier above everything else. You have your A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and then your F tier, just renamed to give them a little bit more personality, make them a little bit more me, if you will. So you have your Godlike in your S tier, you have your Awesome Sauce in the A tier, you have your Good as Gold in the B tier, you have your Quite Alright in the C, you have Superman in the D, that sounded wrong, and then you have Rock Bottom as your F tier. So I guess we just kind of hop right into it. It's a little bit different for me because most of my videos are pretty heavily edited. This one's going to be a bit more off the cuff, and I'm just going to kind of roll with it and see how things go. So I think some of it's in alphabetical order. I'm not entirely sure how alphabetized it is, but regardless, we'll get into it. So our first character for this MCU Heroes tier list, which I mean, again, too, another thing I should probably mention, these are just the ones that I consider to be heroes. I call them the major heroes, so there are some side characters that you might think should be included that aren't, or there may be some characters on here that are included that I thought should be included that you felt might not need to be included. For instance, Loki is on here, and Sylvie. Loki has had a history as a villain, but is definitely a hero, or at the very least an anti-hero as of his show premiering. So certain characters may or may not be here that you might like or dislike, but regardless, there are 49 characters here, which is far more than enough. So yeah, I'm going to stop talking and get right into it, which is going to require more talking. Our first character is Ajax, played by Salma Hayek, who was just in Eternals. Here's the thing with this character. I think that she had the potential to be great, but she really just wasn't in the movie enough. So it's really hard to place her. Between the B and C tier, what sort of divides these two tiers, in my opinion, is the Good as Gold tier, which would be your B tier. For me, that's characters that we haven't quite seen their full potential yet, but there is the potential there for them to be great. Whereas the Quite Alright tier for me is the characters that I feel like we've seen enough of, and although they're not bad by any means, I don't really think there's potential there for them to get much higher. So it really kind of comes down to the potential. So Good as Gold, in my mind, means that there's potential for this character to grow a lot more and become a favorite, whereas the Quite Alright is just sort of like, I feel like they're kind of stuck in this middle area, and there's not really much of an opportunity for them to go up. So Ajax, I'm gonna start off by putting Ajax in the Quite Alright tier. if you've seen the movie, because I want to avoid spoilers, she just has this healing factor, and she is the leader of the Eternals, but I just don't feel there's much potential for her to really expand and be this bigger character that we're all going to fall in love with down the line. So she's going to end up in the quite all right here. Then we have Paul Rudd as Ant-Man right away. It's easy one for me. Awesome sauce. I mean, Paul Rudd, one of the most charming and funny guys on the planet. The dude doesn't age, or if he does age, he just gets better with age. He's hilarious. He's one of the most relatable characters in the entire MCU because he is just a fish out of water. He's a normal dude that all of a sudden gets to be an Avenger, and he's so awesome, and I love his abilities. And again, with Ant-Man 3 coming out, there's definitely potential for him to get bumped up to the godlike tier. So right now, 2 Ant-Man movies appeared in Civil War and Endgame and all that good stuff. So right now, I think sticking him in the awesome sauce tier will suffice, but there's definitely potential, once we see more of him, for him to get bumped up to the godlike tier. Bucky Burns, again, another one that some people might see more as an anti-hero. Kind of stuck between these two, but I feel like awesome sauce suits him, especially after the character arc that he had in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I know wasn't everyone's favorite show. A lot of people found it to be quite boring. I enjoyed it myself for these reasons. It was a much more character-driven show than I think a lot of people were expecting. So the fact that we finally got to see Bucky's redemption and him sort of make amends with at least one person that he's wronged, maybe on the path to more, and to see him start to forgive himself, it was fantastic. And it's one of the better done aspects of the show. So I think Bucky does firmly belong in that awesome sauce tier. Then we go to Captain Marvel, a character that you either love or you hate. I think good as gold suits Captain Marvel right now. Her powers, she's definitely either the most powerful Avenger or the second most powerful Avenger as of right now. But as a character, I didn't feel she was anything special in her own movie, and then she was barely in Endgame at all. So I think good as gold is a good spot for her to be. We're getting the Marvel soon, and I have no doubt that in the next Avengers film, whenever that arrives, she's going to be a pretty big player. So I think there's definitely potential for her to go higher up on the list. But right now, I think good as gold is suitable for her. You got the man himself already, and this is a no-brainer. I mean, whether you're talking about the character of Steve Rogers, you're talking about Chris Evans as an actor, they're one in my mind. And I mean, Godlike, there's nowhere else that Cap's going to be. Whether you were on his side in Civil War or not, there's no denying that, you know, he is the perfect embodiment of the character, the most perfect embodiment of the character, and it's easily a godlike character in the MCU. There's no denying that. I don't even feel like I really have to explain it because it's Captain America, it's Steve Rogers, it's Chris Evans. That's all you really need to know for him to be put in the godlike tier. Drax. This one kills me. This is a character I was dreading to get because I love Dave Bautista. I love the character of Drax, but I think Quite Alright is suitable for Drax. And it kills me because I think Drax is among the funniest characters in the MCU. He's hilarious, he's clueless, and I love it. Dave Bautista seems like a great guy. He's a great actor, but Drax is super dumbed down in the MCU. Okay, Drax in the comics and certain storylines is an absolute beast, and I just never got that from him in the MCU. So, as a character, I think he's great, but as a hero, I think there's a lot of lost potential in his adaptation to the MCU, so Quite Alright is where he's going to end up. Druig, another one of the Eternals. He has sort of like mind manipulation, like he can take over people's minds. I'll put him in good as gold for now, and here's why. He really wasn't in the movie a whole lot, but he was one of the characters that I felt was the most intriguing because he was very much, I don't know what the word I'm trying to look for here, but he believes in free will, and he believed in stopping humans from destroying themselves and destroying one another, and he was one of the only characters that pushed back against what the Eternals stood for. And I think that he's a character with the ability that he has. He can be a very dangerous figure going forward. So I think good as gold is a good category for him because there's definitely a lot of potential for him to expand and blow up and be a real beast going forward. Got Sam Wilson, a.k.a. the Falcon, a.k.a. the new Captain America. And this one's a tough one. I think Awesome Sauce is suitable for him. Just like Bucky, he was a side character in Winter Soldier, and then he just got expanded upon as the movies went along. And now he's Captain freaking America, and that excites me. I think he's going to be a great Captain America going forward. Is he a Steve Rogers? No, I don't think he'll ever fully fill in that Steve Rogers, just because, you know, with Chris Evans and Steve Rogers, they're from the very beginning of the MCU, so it's going to be hard for Sam Wilson and Anthony Mackie to fill in that role, but I think he was the best choice to take on the mantle, and I think he's going to do a great job, and I've always found him to be a very charismatic guy, and the character, too, is super relatable. Again, it's another guy who, he's not a super soldier, he's not an alien or a god, he's just a dude in a wingsuit trying his best, doing what he thinks is right, and I admire that, and I respect the hell out of it. Nick Fury, I'm actually going to put him in the quite all right. Obviously, he brought the Avengers together. It's Samuel L. Jackson, one of the most recognizable faces, voices, actors on the planet. He's great, but as a hero, he doesn't really do much. He's kind of just the man behind the computer, if you will, so he's fine. He does his job. He's there, but I don't really see there being any potential for him to expand upon what he already is as a character, so I'll stick him there. Gamora. This is a tricky one, actually. Jeez. Gamora. Where do you belong? Good as gold. Good as gold is fitting for Gamora in my mind. She hasn't really had that chance to fully explode into this beautiful blossoming character. Like, I think she has the potential, but she's definitely one of the more intriguing characters, especially with her relationship with Nebula, her relationship with the rest of the Guardians, her relationship with her father or adoptive father Thanos. And now it seems like the next Guardians, a huge focus is going to be tracking her down and getting her back where she doesn't have her memory now. So again, potential there for sure for her to bump up to awesome sauce in the future. But as of right now, she's good as gold because she's a great character, but not necessarily reaching her full potential in my mind. Is this Gilgamesh here? It's kind of a small picture. I think it's Gilgamesh. Yeah, I think it looks like Gilgamesh. So we'll say it's Gilgamesh. Hard to say for sure. Some of these pictures are really small, especially, they might look small to you, they're even smaller to me. I think it's Gilgamesh from the Eternals. Gilgamesh, quite all right, only because I think that he's a very good actor. Is a guy, if you've seen Train to Busan, you know that this guy's a great actor. His name is escaping my mind right now, and I apologize for that. But his character, he's kind of just the strong man. Like, he just punches things, and he's, you know, he's got his abilities to hit things hard, essentially. He's a super strength kind of guy. And I don't see there being a ton of potential for that to really expand into a much bigger character overall. So quite all right, I think is pretty fitting for Gilgamesh. Groot. Ah, man, this one's a tough one too. Character-wise, quite all right is Groot, honestly, because Groot is just Groot. I mean, he has that moment in the end of the first Guardians that really tugs on your heartstrings. In Guardians 2, he's baby Groot, and now we kind of have teenage Groot. But Groot is a character that you're limited to 3 words as your entire vocabulary. You know, there's not much room for improvement. So I love Groot as a character and what he has done, but I just don't think there's really a need for him to be any higher because I feel like he's already just kind of reached his max potential aside from maybe a bit of emotional payoff and things like that. Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. This one's a tough one too. A lot of people really do not like Jeremy Renner, and I feel like there are, you know, reasons for that I'm not really going to get into. Hawkeye as a character has always been seen as the most useless of the Avengers, so I'll put him in good as gold. I've always been a fan of Hawkeye because, you know, I love a good underdog story. So I appreciate that despite him even drawing attention to it, like we're fighting an army of robots and I have a bow and arrow, none of this makes sense, is awesome to me. Like, he's just so self-aware. I think he's a great character, and he has his show coming up later this month, actually, which is why I feel like this is a safe spot for him now, because after his show, which maybe, you know, might run multiple seasons and whatnot, we could really get to know the more personal aspect of him and dive deeper into that Ronin backstory, which I really wish we got more of in Endgame. So I feel like there is absolutely a huge possibility that he could really expand with this television show or this Disney Plus original series to become an even better character. Now we get into the Hulk. Jeez, this one's a tough one because I have a lot of thoughts about Hulk, and that could be a whole other video on its own. I'll put him in awesome sauce for now. It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell because the Hulk in the MCU started off in the Incredible Hulk, which is kind of just its own thing, and it's kind of either like you love it or you hate it type of movie. It started off with Edward Norton as the Hulk, and then it went to Mark Ruffalo in the Avengers, and then From there, the relationship and the journey becomes a bit complicated. Like we saw in Infinity War, it's like they're not really on the same page, and Hulk kind of began to talk a little bit in Ragnarok. And then he got his ass beat by Thanos, which was something that's like, you know, you really want to see that rematch. We never got it. Then we have Professor Hulk now, which a lot of people aren't a big fan of. So Hulk is a very middling character, but I honestly like this journey. I like Professor Hulk, and I feel like that was always where this storyline was going. And I like how that relationship was strained, and I wish we got to see a bit more of that. And again, there's still potential with the She-Hulk series coming up. We know that Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk is going to be in there, and we don't know if they're going to be separate again, if we're going to get more Professor Hulk. We don't know if we're going to dive deeper into the relationship between the two characters interlocked into one body. So I do feel confident in putting Hulk in the awesome sauce category. With, as an OG Avenger, there's definitely potential there for him to eventually bump up to Godlike, honestly. Is this Icarus we have now? I'm sorry, I'm zooming in on the camera a little bit because some of these pictures are very small. It looks like we have Icarus. Icarus. This is a tough one, played by Richard Madden in Eternals, and I think the performance was fantastic. I'll put him in good as gold for now. Even though we've only gotten one movie out of him, he is essentially the MCU Superman. And they even make a joke about that, which you see in the trailers. Yeah, he flies and he has like laser vision, heat vision, whatever you want to call it. And he's super strength, basically indestructible. He can take a ton of damage. He's extremely overpowered. Richard Madden, a fantastic actor. Again, very charismatic, very charming. Seems like a great guy. So where we left him last, who knows if there will be more Icarus in the future to really sort of explore from what we've already got. But if we do get more of him, I can definitely see him getting higher up on the tiers as his journey kind of went on, if you got to explore him a bit more. Finally reached the man himself, Tony Stark, Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., obviously going right next to Cap in the Godlike tier. Do we need an explanation? It's the exact same thing that I said about Cap. It is Tony Stark. It is Iron Man. It is Robert Downey Jr. The three are one. The one that started off the entire MCU. The one that saved everybody's ass and sacrificed himself in Endgame. Probably my favorite journey of a character throughout various movies ever. I bawled like a baby until I left the theater when this whole last little bit of Endgame was happening after he sacrificed himself and everything. I've never had a fictional death hit me harder in my entire life, and likely never will. Yeah, what else is there to say? He is Iron Man, and yeah, it's a legacy, even as an actor, that Robert Downey Jr., this is what he's going to be remembered for, is Iron Man, and he gave us, essentially, he gifted us the MCU, so we owe quite a bit to him as an actor, as well as to the character in this fictional universe. And here we have, I'm trying to think, Kingo, I think his name is. It's Kumail Nanjiani. And this dude is a total scene stealer. He's going in good as gold because it's another character that we didn't get quite enough of for me to throw him in the awesome sauce category. But he deserves to be above quite all right because he was great. He was a scene stealer. His abilities, I feel like, could be explored a lot more going forward. And he's a character that I think, assuming we get more of him down the line, is a character that is already extremely lovable, but could become even more so, and could also be a pretty big player going forward. So definitely putting him there. Loki. God, this is a tough one. This will be the first one out of the big main two that's going to be in the Godlike tier. Not just because he is a god or demigod or whatever he is, but Tom Hiddleston in Loki. Again, it's another character and actor pairing that was a match made in heaven. And Loki has had one of the most interesting, if not the most interesting, journeys in the entire MCU. From the jealous brother who was an enemy, a villain in the first Avengers, he was the main villain. He's done a lot of wrong, but I feel like he began to make amends when we hit Thor Ragnarok, and then I feel like through Infinity War, how that went for him, and then we get into his own show, that he's a character that a lot of people, myself included, have absolutely fallen in love with, and he's a character that has had an amazing redemption arc, so I feel like the Godlike tier is fitting for Loki, and of course we're getting a Loki season 2, so we're going to be getting more of Tom Hiddleston and this character, and I absolutely can't wait for it. So Makkari, this one might be a bit controversial, but I really do, like, with the characters, the company that she has, it's such a tough one. It's such a tough one. I'm honestly going to put her in awesome sauce. I'm not going to lie. I feel like this is a speedster done right. This is the best speedster we've had in any superhero movies or any movie where anyone has super speed. It's just so clean, it's so smooth, and it's the best depiction that we've had of super speed in my mind. Not to mention, I love the actress from being on The Walking Dead. I feel like it's a huge leap forward for the deaf community and those who have to use sign language. And as a character, again, I feel like it's the best interpretation and version we've had of a speedster in any movie ever. And I absolutely love that about her, and I cannot wait to see more of her. So Makkari from the Eternals is going to be in the awesome sauce. Mantis. Oh man, this one's a tough one. I hate to do this, but this is going to be the first character in the super meh. Not quite at rock bottom, because I don't think that she's like a garbage character or anything like that. But her abilities, like, they only work if you're able to get close enough to touch somebody. And aside from that, she's a bit of a weirdo, which I get why she's a bit of a weirdo, and it makes sense, and it works for the character. But as an actual character, I don't connect with her. I don't find her super relatable. And as a hero, I don't find her abilities. Like, she basically has the same abilities that Druig has, but Druig can just do it, like, from his mind, and she actually has to be in physical contact with the being to, you know, to sort of manipulate their emotions and whatnot. So I think that she's kind of useless as a hero, and as a character, I don't really find her to be overly relatable all that much. So sadly, Mantis is going to end up in the super meh tier. Then we have M'Baku. Man, he's going in good as gold. He has to. M'Baku, Winston Duke, great casting once again. A character that, again, that was a foe turned into a friend throughout the journey of Black Panther. He was a badass in Infinity War, and then with Black Panther Wakanda Forever coming out, it's a character that I think we're going to see a lot more of in that movie, and likely a lot more of in the future. Again, it's one of those redemption arcs that he started off as a foe, right? He started off fighting to have the crown of the Black Panther, and then in the end he turns around and they're like brothers, and I absolutely love it. He's had a great journey thus far, and I'm looking forward to seeing where his journey goes next. Then we have Monica. Is it Monica or Maria Rambeau? I'm forgetting so much, and I apologize for that so much. But regardless, she's going in the good as gold category tier because, again, we didn't get a ton of her in WandaVision. We got enough to make me really like her, and then we know that she now has superpowers, and she's going with the Skrulls, so the potential there is essentially limitless in my mind. We don't really know the full extent of her powers just yet, as well as we don't know where she's going or what's going to happen when she goes on this journey with the Skrulls. So long story short, a character that pretty much can go anywhere, and that makes me extremely excited. Then we have Nakia from Black Panther as well. She's another one I'm putting in the good as gold category because of the fact that we only had her in Black Panther, and she sort of acts as T'Challa's moral compass more than anything. Lupita Nyong'o, one of the best actresses working today. So we only got her in Black Panther, so we've had very limited time with her. But at the same time, I think she's going to be a big player in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and I can't wait to see what they do with her in that role. So we'll see what comes next. Nebula. Man, oh man, this one might be controversial too, but I'm actually putting Nebula in awesome sauce because if not Loki, then I think Nebula has had the best, or one of the best, at the very least the most underrated character arc / journey in the entire MCU. Again, started off as just sort of this angry bounty hunter. You know, she was off trying to, you know, impress her father Thanos by killing her sister or bringing her back or doing this, doing that. Just kind of generic, you know, underling bad guy sidekick type thing. And then her character arc in Guardians 2, where she, you know, just that absolutely tear-jerking moment of, you know, you always wanted to win and I just wanted a sister. Even talking about it now wells me up because that's such a powerful and impactful moment. And then where she goes in Endgame and whatnot, it's just a character that I absolutely cannot wait to see more of. Karen Gillan crushes the role every single time. And I think, yeah, she's had among the best arcs in the entire MCU, if not the best arc. So definitely deserving of being in the awesome sauce category in my mind. All right, then we go to Okoye. And yeah, good as gold. because Danai Gurira is a badass and this character is a badass, and I absolutely love it every single time she's on screen because she is a scene stealer. She, again, is a very charismatic actress. I mean, you got this character who's supposed to be this, like, brooding badass, which she can play that role very well, but then she can also be cracking jokes and be super personable, so definitely good as gold. And again, with Black Panther Wakanda Forever coming out, you really don't know what they're going to do with this character next, but whatever it is that they are gonna do, I'm excited to see it. Black Panther, T'Challa, it's gotta be godlike. I mean, come on, even more so, sure, maybe Chadwick Boseman's death may impact this a little bit, but regardless, I mean, again, it's another one of those MCU castings, perfect for the character. A match made in heaven. I don't think there's a person alive that is better to play the role, and that's why it hurts so much more that Chadwick Boseman's gone, because the character and their arc really felt like it was just the beginning, and then you had the tragic passing, and I don't think that there's anyone else out there that could have played this character better than Chadwick did. And as a character, even just with the arc that we got him so far, even just the arc he has in Civil War, he starts off on a path of vengeance and revenge, and he learns to forgive, and he learns that you can't live with hatred in your heart. And then the character just goes on to do so much more in the Black Panther movie as well as in Infinity War. So it's just R.I.P. Chadwick, honestly, is all I have to say. And even in the few movies that he was in, he gave us a godlike character. And now with his tragic passing, the character is even more powerful of a figure than he was before. Peggy Carter, some may not see her as a hero. I do, especially if you include the What If series where it's Captain Carter. Peggy, though, oh man, this is a tough one too. I don't feel like we're going to get more of her outside of What If. And that's why I think I have to put her in the quite alright category, because I'm not really including the What If characters because they, you know, we're going to see them in various different forms. So I think quite alright is good for Peggy because I loved her as a character. Her and Steve's relationship is one of the best parts of the first Avenger, and the fact that that's where Steve ends up at the end of Endgame was perfect. Like, it was the absolute best swan song that Cap could have possibly gotten. He got his happily ever after. He got to live this little thing called life, and I love that. But as Peggy in the MCU, I don't really think there's much else she's going to be doing because I have my doubts that we're ever going to see her again outside of What If. So that's why she ends up in the quite alright. Pepper. Pepper. This is a really tough one too. Oh man. I think for the same reason, I think she's going to end up in quite alright. I think there's definitely potential there for her to sort of expand if she does keep putting on, you know, her iron suit. But I don't know if we're actually going to see that. I feel like that might just be a one-time thing. I feel like Gwyneth Paltrow has kind of run her course with the character, and I'm not sure how much more we're going to see of her. I could be completely wrong. She could be in the Ironheart series or the Armor War series a ton, but I feel like she's kind of run her course. I feel like her as an actress is kind of done with the character, and I feel like her arc is kind of went away with Tony. So as much as I loved her as Tony's equal and as sort of his anchor that kept him, you know, grounded and centered, and you know, that relationship blossomed beautifully throughout the Iron Man movies, I just don't see her going up any higher than where she's already at. Then we have Phastos, I think is how you say his name, from Eternals. Good as gold. I mean, Brian Tyree Henry, I believe is the first openly gay character in the MCU, so that alone does so much for a community that has been really deprived in this universe thus far. But him as a character, his power sounds boring. He has the power of invention, but this guy invents some pretty crazy shit throughout Eternals, and I feel like, again, that's a character that really has limitless potential going forward. I mean, the things that he could create, he could invent to fight off these big threats that are undoubtedly on their way for the MCU going forward. I think there's potential there for this to sort of be the character that ties everything together, brings all the heroes together, and gives them their weapon to sort of unite them, that they can come together and use against these much bigger foes. So it's a character that I loved him already in Eternals. I love the actor, and it's a character that has so much potential to be a huge player going forward against the next big bad in the MCU. Quicksilver, hate to do it. Super meh, because he was barely in the one movie that he was in, and then he's a speedster who died from being shot. I mean, all he had to do was just move Clint and that kid out of the way, or just shove the car and just stay back, or he could have pulled like Quicksilver in the X-Men movies and just boop, boop, boop with all the bullets. I mean, Aaron Taylor Johnson, man, you couldn't have gotten a better casting for the MCU's version of Quicksilver. and then you just throw him away in one movie. So it's just wasted potential is what that is, and that's why he ends up in the super meh category. Rocket. Yeah, Rocket's going in good as gold because I don't really think the character has potential to move up much more, but he definitely doesn't deserve to be in that quite alright category because we're definitely going to get more of him. I feel like I've read somewhere that Guardians 3 is kind of like his movie, and Bradley Cooper does the voice fantastically. He's a hilarious character, by far one of the funniest in the MCU when it comes to the heroes. His and Groot's relationship warms my heart all the time. So yeah, between him being as funny as he is and as cool and awesome as he is, he definitely deserves to be in this good as gold. And there is potential for him to go up to awesome sauce, but right now I feel like this sort of B tier is good. Now we have Cersei. Cersei. Yeah, awesome sauce for Cersei. Again, I know it's might be a tough pill to swallow, given that The Eternals is a very controversial and divisive movie right now, and that this character has only had one movie. But again, when it comes down to, you know, we're talking about these characters' powers, by far one of the most powerful beings in this universe. Not to mention Cersei, Gemma Chan, was essentially the main character of Eternals, and I think she carried the movie very well, both from an emotional standpoint, sort of, what I'm trying to say here, as you know, from an emotional standpoint, she carried the movie very well as a character that was relatable and likable, and we understood where she was coming from, and to sort of be the leader and take on that leadership role of the Eternals as the movie went on. So I think awesome sauce, like I really do think she belongs there, and there's potential if she sticks around for long enough for her to go up even higher. Now we have our man Shang-Chi, another character, awesome sauce. He's only had one movie, but man oh man, Simu Liu absolutely killed it in the role. Again, another one of those castings, match made in heaven, perfect. I couldn't have handpicked a better actor myself, and he just killed it. He crushed it. He really did. And this is a character that probably more than anyone I've already mentioned, I am absolutely chomping at the bit to see more of him, because I think this character has so much potential, and I really think he's going to take on, I mean, popularity-wise, too, I think he could definitely grow to be as popular as some of the other characters in this awesome sauce list, or even over time as popular as the characters that I currently have in my Godlike tier, and I just cannot wait to see more of him. Like, definitely the character on this list, even just looking at the ones down bottom, that I'm most looking forward to seeing again on the big screen, so cannot wait for that. Shuri, this is a tough one because right now Letitia Wright is in a tough spot for some of her beliefs and opinions, real world stuff, but I'll have to put her in good as gold because as a character, I found she was super charming and super funny in Black Panther. She's probably the smartest character currently in the MCU, which again automatically gives her so much potential. I feel like she may be the one to take on the Black Panther mantle next, which I feel is actually fitting. The only issue is, again, and I'm not even just saying whether I agree or disagree with her opinions in the real world, but it's a matter of that she's just a very controversial figure right now, and that might cause issues, especially if she takes on the role of Black Panther, because Marvel is notoriously known for not wanting to keep around people who are controversial figures. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with her as an actress, and be interesting to see what happens with the character. Tom Holland as Spider-Man, definitely going right into the awesome sauce. I don't think I've had enough time with him to put him in the Godlike tier just yet, or he's really shown me enough, but I think Tom Holland was the perfect guy to take on this younger version of Spider-Man than we've had in the past. I know there is so much debate, and I don't understand why as to which Spider-Man is the best, you know, whether it's Tobey, whether it's Andrew, whether it's Tom. Like, why can't we just love them all for different reasons? Because obviously you have the nostalgia factor of Tobey, he brought the character to life unlike ever before. Andrew, I think, was great for his time in that late 2000s, early 2010s. And then Tom is the new modern age Spider-Man, and he's the youngest one that we've gotten. He's the one that kind of fit that high school role the best. He's the one that actually got to go and team up with the friggin' Avengers. So I think they all have their merits, and I think Tom has played the role exceptionally well, and I cannot wait to see No Way Home. And then we go to Sprite. I'll put Sprite in good as gold. Sprite because essentially she has the same abilities as Loki. Like, she can make herself disappear, go invisible. She can make copies of herself. She just basically illusions is essentially what Sprite does. So it's a character that can definitely come in handy and could be cool to have as a hero on their side going forward. But from what we got in the Eternals, I don't think she quite belongs up in the awesome sauce tier just yet, because it is an ability that we have seen before and arguably have seen done better, or at least used in more... Well, that's hard to say, because I really do like what they did with Sprite in this movie, but I don't think it was quite enough to go up to the awesome sauce tier quite yet. Now we're getting to Peter Quill, aka Starlord. Despite him being the cause of the events of Endgame, because he could have just waited an extra 30 seconds in Infinity War, there's no denying, and even though right now Chris Pratt is not everybody's favorite human on the planet for various reasons, and the fact people are complaining nonstop about him being cast as Mario in the animated Mario movie and being cast as Garfield also in an upcoming animated Garfield movie, but Chris Pratt brought this character to life unlike anyone else possibly could have. He's funny as hell. I laugh all the time at his jokes. He's a great guy, it seems, as Peter Quill. I mean to say, like, the character. He's just a great, nice guy, but he gets done what needs to get done, right? He'll get the job done when need be, and he's also just super funny and super relatable because he's a human. Again, it's another one of these fish out of water, very relatable. He kind of just says what we're all thinking as an audience, and for that, I love him, and he belongs in awesome sauce. Then we have Doctor Strange, Godlike. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm going to keep saying this because the MCU really doesn't miss with its castings, aside from the few characters that they had to recast, but on those recasts, the second try did it. They got it right. Benedict Cumberbatch, the perfect embodiment of Doctor Strange. The character, again, one of those arcs where he started off as this sort of pretentious douchebag in the beginning of Doctor Strange, and that role has been built upon so much, and that journey has been so well executed thus far. We still have him appearing in Spider-Man No Way Home in a month, and then we still have Doctor Strange in the the multiverse of madness going forward. So again, it's just one of those characters that I think has even more potential than we've already seen, which is hard to believe because of how much we've already gotten from this character. So he absolutely belongs in the Godlike tier. Then we have Sylvie. She'll drop down in the good as gold because she's essentially just the female version of Loki, but it was a character that I was very empathetic towards both of them, really, I guess. I fell in love with this character so much more than I expected to. You start off in the Loki show and you're like, okay, she's just the female version of Loki and she's bad, but as we got more backstory and we dove deeper into her psyche and what was really behind, like the emotion behind why she was doing everything and her story, it really, it got to me. It cut deep, and she stuck with me, and she's a character that I really admire and really do want to see more of, and that's why I can't wait for Loki Season 2. And then we have Thena. Angelina Jolie as Thena. Oh, it's another tough one. Shoot, I don't know. I'm gonna go awesome sauce, I think. Another one. Thena, because she's the goddess of war in Eternals. She is a super badass. She could take down probably almost anyone on this list with ease. She's an absolute tank. And Angelina Jolie, I actually loved her in this role so much more. I have a really love-hate relationship with Angelina Jolie as an actress. Sometimes I find she's very superficial, and I can't really, enjoy her performances. They just feel fake. But sometimes she really does bring out this sort of raw emotion and feels very genuine. And surprisingly enough, in this CGI-filled movie with a bunch of superheroes and aliens and flying monsters and stuff like that, she brought a very real, raw amount of emotion to this character that I really connected with her. And on top of that, she's probably the strongest, if not the second strongest Eternal. And with the Eternals being who they are, the 10 of them could probably wipe almost everybody on this list. So the fact that she's up there that high as that strong of a character, could definitely see her being a problem for the bads going forward, the big bads in the MCU. Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Godlike. Again, another character that started off as sort of generic, puffing his chest out and talking this way in the first Thor, and they bleached his eyebrows for some reason, and then he went from just this typical muscle-bound god guy to arguably the most human character in the MCU. I mean, I know a lot of people like to make fun of the whole fat Thor thing in Endgame, but to me, that is just real, genuine mental health being brought forward. He went through this depression because he felt that he failed everyone in Infinity War because he let the snap happen, and then he let himself go, and he just binge ate and played video games and was depressed and became an alcoholic and everything. And that's something that I feel like people didn't pay attention to because they're so used to seeing Chris Hemsworth as Chris Hemsworth. So when he became this sort of dude or fat Thor, whatever you want to call him, a lot of people kind of laughed at him. But with or without that aspect in it, the Thor movies, you love him or you hate him. Ragnarok, I absolutely love. The character's journey throughout those movies and throughout the MCU as a whole, including the Avengers movies, has been one of a kind, and I cannot wait for Thor Love and Thunder because I love that style. I love Taika Waititi's style. I love the style of Ragnarok, even though it's not for everyone. So I'm excited to see how they handle this character post-Endgame. And again, him finding himself again, realizing he's still worthy despite what happened to him and how he handled, post Infinity War events. It warms my heart every time. It gets to me every time. Brings a tear to my eye when he gets to say goodbye to his mother properly. And even when he is Fat Thor and he gets to fight Thanos again in Endgame, he's still a badass. He's still an absolute tank. And again, probably top 3 of the most powerful Avengers. So easily godlike. Oh, we're getting towards the end of the list here. All right, and next we have Valkyrie, played amazingly by Tessa Thompson. Awesome sauce, easy, because the character, she's just got so much swagger. She's so badass. And again, it's another one of those characters that, despite us not seeing a ton of, she did have a very good journey. I mean, when we first find her, she's basically this drunk. She feels like she failed her sisters, the fellow Valkyries. She feels like she's not, she's not worth anything anymore. She's not good enough for anyone or anything. And now she's going to be the Queen of Asgard, and she's an absolute beast of a character in terms of abilities and strength and as a hero, and she's sort of found a new lease on life and found a reason to continue to fight, or to fight again, I guess. And that to me is exceptional. Hopefully I'm not moving this around too much, that we're not completely obscuring the Vision. I only moved it up slightly because I don't want to ruin it. But next we have Vision. Vision's going in the quite alright tier, and it kills me to do that because Paul Bettany, he deserves all the praise for jumping from Jarvis to Vision and taking on a more physical role. But Vision as a character in the comics, to the best of my knowledge, he's like one of the most powerful beings in the entire MCU. And I feel like they completely and utterly nerfed him in these movies. I even made a whole video about that, how I feel like they really kind of did this character dirty. And that's always kind of pissed me off because I feel like he never really got a time to shine. And he was being beaten very easily by characters that I personally felt he shouldn't have been beat by. So, excuse me. So that's a character that I just feel like had so much more potential to begin with, but as time went on, I don't really know. Like, it's tough because I know with the events of WandaVision, we have White Vision out there and he kind of has his memories back, but I feel like they're not going to all of a sudden make him one of the best in the MCU, one of the strongest and most powerful, so I think his journey is kind of just at a standstill in terms of character and abilities and whatnot, so let's stick him there for now. I think that's kind of where he belongs. Rhodey, aka War Machine, good as gold. Actually, you know what? Rhodey's going up in awesome sauce because I love Don Cheadle in the role. It was the best recasting choice they possibly could have went with, and I feel like it's a character that never really got the time to shine like I wanted him to. And now that we're finally having Armor Wars, and I'm sure he's going to be playing a role in Ironheart, it's a character that I think is only going to get better with time. And when we look back on his journey, we're going to say, like, after Armor Wars is said and done in Ironheart and stuff like that, and whatever comes next for the character after that, we're going to look back and be like, why did they have this guy in so many of these movies and give him so little to do? Because he's awesome, and that's why he ends up in awesome sauce. After that, we have the Wasp, aka Evangeline Lilly. She does also belong in awesome sauce. Come on. Again, I know she's had a bit of controversy with real world stuff in recent memory, but as a character, Hope is great. I understand her journey throughout Ant-Man into Ant-Man and the Wasp with the loss of her mother and her strained relationship with her father, and then how she kind of found herself again through, Paul Rudd's character and kind of taking on the mantle of the Wasp, and Ant-Man and the Wasp gave her purpose again in a character, where she felt she was kind of lost and she lost her way. So I definitely like her more, I guess, because of that. Or what am I trying to say here? Not necessarily that I like her more, but just that I'm glad that they sort of gave her this pseudo redemption arc, and I'm excited to see what she does next. Then we're on to Scarlett Johansson. I'm just putting it right up in Godlike. It's a character that should have had her solo movie long before she got her solo movie. And even though her solo movie wasn't everyone's favorite, I know it wasn't my favorite. It was among like the mid-tier-ish MCU movies. It was long overdue. It should have been given to her and to us long ago. What happens with her in Endgame is beyond devastating. And I love the character. I love ScarJo in the role as Black Widow, and I love the actress as this character. Again, a perfect embodiment. I love the journey that she's had. Again, she starts off, it's another one of those characters that has a past, and she's always trying to run from her past rather than confronting it. And then when she finally gets to confront it and feel comfortable with herself and in her body and the things that she's done and that have happened to her, it's very refreshing to see these sort of real world characters, because again, she's another one that doesn't have any super abilities, right? She doesn't have a suit of armor, she doesn't have super soldier serum, she's not a god, she's just an assassin essentially. And to see her sort of become comfortable with herself again and forgive herself and all that stuff, it was just an absolutely amazing arc, and they completely nailed it. Then we're hopping into the Scarlett Witch, aka Wanda Maximoff. Awesome sauce for now. I would argue that she's either the most powerful Avenger or, again, in the top two. I think it's either her or Captain Marvel are the most powerful Avenger. Right now, she ends up in the awesome sauce tier only because, again, it's another one of these characters that I love, love, love. Now that I'm thinking it, no, actually, you know what? Godlike. She's going to Godlike because WandaVision brought so much more emotion to the character and her journey of grief and loss and mourning. It brought so much more to the character than we had already had. If we hadn't gotten WandaVision yet, the show, or if we never got it at all, I think Awesome Sauce would have been fitting just because of how powerful a character she is. But I never really fell in love with the character until WandaVision because of that journey that she had, and with just the journey alone and WandaVision and where she's going to go next in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which gets me extremely excited. Godlike is very suiting for her. Then we have Wong. Wong is going in good as gold. It kills me to put him so low. I definitely would have put him in awesome sauce because every single time this dude's on screen, I laugh my ass off. He's endlessly funny. He's endlessly charming and charismatic. Super easy to love character, but we don't get enough of him. We got a good amount of him in Doctor Strange, and then he kind of just pops up here and there throughout other movies and doesn't really do a whole lot. Like, he's in Infinity War, doesn't really do a whole lot. He's in Endgame, gets like one line. It's funny, cracks me up, don't get much more of him. He's in Shang-Chi a little bit, but again, not enough to really make me absolutely, head over heels, awesome sauce tier kind of, fall for him. So he's going to belong right then and there. Then we get on to the last one, and this one is a really tough one. It is Yondu. Some people might not even consider him to be a hero, maybe an anti-hero, maybe kind of just, I don't know. But where this character goes throughout Guardians 2, where he ends up at the end of Guardians 2, it's a hero's journey in my mind. It's a redemption arc, again, like we've had with so many of these heroes. Sort of a bad guy, or at least a guy that's not really a good guy, but where things go with him, it's definitely, I think, a hero's journey, a hero's arc. So we're going to go good as gold. Even though I know that I mostly reserved this list, or this tier, my apologies, I reserved this tier for characters that I think have potential to get even bigger. I don't really see, Yondu getting much bigger because James Gunn has reconfirmed yet again that Yondu is dead as dead gets. He's not coming back, no magical resurrections or anything. The character doesn't deserve to be in the quite alright tier, and he also doesn't deserve to be in Superman or rock bottom, because that ending of Guardians 2 absolutely crushes my spirit every time I see it. It was an absolutely undeniably beautiful send-off to the character, and Michael Rooker, he just took this role and he made it his own. It was an exceptional little mini arc that we got, so good as gold is fitting for that character. I think that sort of B tier area. And there you have it. None of the characters, I think, really belong in rock bottom. I think they all played their parts, even though we have Mantis and Quicksilver, the only two in this super meh category. It's only because, again, well, first off, Quicksilver was just kind of wasted, but I think what we got of him in Age of Ultron was enough to not make him a rock bottom character. And Mantis, The potential is there to possibly get bumped up ever so slightly, but she's just a little bit quirky, a little bit bubbly, kind of weird, and not overly relatable because of how weird they made her. And her abilities, again, you have to have physical contact with them, so I don't think her abilities are as useful as they might think they are, and I just don't really connect with her that much. But again, I don't think she's a rock bottom character because I believe that the actress, I think it's Palm Clementif, I'm not necessarily sure if I pronounced that right, she does a good job. Like, she knows, you know, she understood the assignment, absolutely, and that's why I think Superman is the lowest that I'd want to put her. But there you have it. Feel free to agree or disagree with my tiers, but that's about it. That's all I got to say for this one. So, yeah, back to the green screen. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my tier placements. And while you're at it, since I'm looking into reviving this series even more down the road, feel free to let me know what topic you'd like to see in a tier video next. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. And that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.